are A Swarm of the Sun. I'm Jakob, and this is Erik.
And I'm Erik.
And you're watching rockflesh.com.
Welcome to rockflesh.com at Damnation Festival. We're here yet again, third year in the wonderful gym here at the Beck, and I've got Jakob and Erik from The Swarm of the Sun. Welcome.
Thank you.
So, this is your first time in the UK.
Yeah.
What expectations do you have about a UK audience?
I mean, we just arrived here yesterday and to the festival like an hour ago maybe. But the vibe already is very, very nice. And you know, you walk around by the stages where people are really into it, it seems like. So, and really exciting.
So, as far as I understand it, actually playing live, quite a new thing. You've only done a few numbers of shows. You know, what was it like to take what feels like a very studio-based, you know, idea into a live setting?
And it's fun, but it's also quite complicated sometimes. But you know, because me and Erik, we write all the music, and we have this array of people that we can bring in that plays different instruments. But on stage we're 6. So it's basically just a matter of translating what we do into something else that works in a live set. So it's not necessarily the same as it's on the albums, but it becomes something different, which is a lot of like exploration and trying things out and finding ways to do it live with.
Is there a bit of envy though? Because obviously, you know, when you create a record, you're playing all the stuff yourself, and now you've got other people playing your bits. Is there a bit like, oh, I really wanted to do that guitar bit, or I really wanted to do that bit?
But that's not, we don't play all the stuff ourselves. So Erik plays guitars, then a lot of pianos and keys and stuff. And I did the vocals and keyboards and synthesizers. But a lot of the people that are on stage with us also plays on the record.
Right.
So it's the drummer and the bassist and a few other names.
And I think also it's, even though I play all the guitars on the albums, it's amazing having another guitarist coming in.
Yeah.
I mean, because it's all about, as you say, translating something that works. And maybe your own ideas that you're used to, that you think would work, won't. So having someone there coming in and giving their opinions and shaping it something new, it's just a benefit.
So are you finding sort of a number of gigs in doing this as a live thing, actually the music is evolving then, and it's changing as you play each show?
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely. So because before you start rehearsing, usually me and Erik are kind of getting some grasp of how we think that it probably should translate into a live set. As soon as you start actually playing it, it becomes something completely different. It's very nice.
And I think it also went into a lot of our writing process. Like when we wrote the latest album, we learned a lot from playing live. So then you kind of bring that into the creative process, where you have to think a bit like, while you're writing, we try to say it doesn't matter, and we might have to kind of think it you. But in a sense as well, you're picturing people in the room, what is workable, what's not. But
And you mentioned the new album, An Empire. You know, I'm going to fanboy here, but An Empire is just incredible. You know, how long did it take in gestation? How, you know, it's a really special album. How long did it take you to come up with it?
Yeah, we basically started writing it right after the previous album, The Woods, was done, which is 5 years ago. But then, we had some kind of hiatus during pandemics and so on, and stuff happens. But the total writing maybe 3 years, something like that, and then recording for maybe a year. And
we tried the different paths as well. We started on an angle that we realized that maybe this is not what we want to create it. So we reversed back, and we actually started not anew, but we took off until we really felt that it was something that is the path we're gonna go on. And then stuff gets simpler. We don't want stuff to be forced. And there was a point where I think it felt a bit forced. And then when you kind of find that little nugget, it's simply just fun.
Because, you know, for those who've not heard the album starts really quiet, really slight, and it's incredible because it just builds, and it starts and then it ends in a crescendo. But for actually a lot of it, it's really slight, it's really minimalistic. You know, was that the plan? You know, as you said, you know, it came together. Was that the plan to actually do something that almost just gestates and just evolves across as you're listening to it?
Yeah, we tend to view like individual songs like have some kind of work to it, and how it evolves, but also the entire album.
Yeah.
And also the different like sides. If you on vinyl, you have 4 sides, and each of these should function as one piece as well. So we generally have some kind of idea of the overarching flow of the entire album, and then you can fit in different pieces of the songs into that overarching the structures. So it's definitely a very, very conscious choice to do.
Yeah. So not asking for spoilers for later on, but how do you then transfer that into a gig where, you know, it's very clear the album is designed to be listened to in one chunk? It's not a sort of, you know, I'll listen to a song and then grab a cup of coffee and then come back. You've got to be there for the duration. How does that then transfer into almost working out what songs you play and what songs you don't play live?
Yeah, I see it kind of differs depending on what kind of venue it is, what kind of setting it is. If it's a festival or if it's, you can do different things depending on what kind of expectations people have on the band. But we do play a lot of the old stuff from the older records. I kind of try to translate those into something that more sounds and feels like a new. But yeah, sometimes you just have to have patience as an audience as well. And if you don't, then maybe it's not for you.
Have you had an opportunity to play the album in its entirety yet, or is that something you would consider?
I would love to do that. we haven't really had the time to rehearse all stuff.
Yeah. So is it more just a case of just transferring that all into the band of 6 and getting everybody up there of how it all works then?
Yeah. Exactly.
But there's definitely a possibility.
Yeah.
Oh, excellent. So any promoters, if you're listening, you know, they are open for all offers. So excellent. So what now? Is it sort of how long? Because as I said, it took a long time to create this album. Are you in one of those album cycles where you'll tour for a bit and then, you know, where are you in that album cycle?
I think it's a really good question, because usually we play a couple of gigs and then we, for different reasons, go into a bit of a hiatus when it comes to playing live. I think it's a bit different this time because we already have more shows booked both this year and next year. But also we don't gonna get stuck just being out on the road. So yesterday we sat at dinner talking a lot about like what should we do next year. We both feel a lot the urge to kind of start writing new. So I think there's a big possibility we will run both tracks this time instead. Because I think just looking at the long hiatus we had since last time, it takes a long time to reboot that. Of course, that was for obvious reasons with pandemic and us being stuck in a creative process. But it's a bit to reboot stuff, and I think looking at like next spring, I think a lot of focus is going to be exactly what you asked about, like getting us into translating this new sound that we have achieved with the latest album and seeing what works live or not. That is definitely a priority. But with that said, we have other thoughts on writing stuff as well. So
that must be really, you know, hard, you know, as a band, because it is about being creative, and you do end up in that cycle of where you have to stop being creative for 2 years, go and tour the world, then come back and be creative again. You know, it is that balance of trying to balance the two.
And then as a part of that, trying to balance like real life and family and all that stuff, which is not that easy when you're 6 people and everyone is having kids sort of like 4 to 5 years old.
But usually it comes from like a spark, and that's something I talk a lot about with you, that once we have established an idea what we want to do next, it kind of spins out of control. We can't really stop it. And Jakob had already started thinking out loud, as you always do, about what we're gonna do next. you sent me a recap of your thoughts, and instantly I had to go down and like get something working. So I think it's not matter about how we plan. It's just like when there is a good idea we want to run with, we're gonna start.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what's so wonderful about an Empire, is it's very, very obvious that, you know, you thought about everything. It's not a number of songs thrown together. You know, there's lots of albums you listen to and you realise it's just a collection of songs. This is a movement. It is, you know, it almost has that classical feel about it. It's a suite.
Yeah.
And it's very much designed, as I said, one piece of music with different bits. So, you know, and that's very obvious. You know, if that's something you want to, as you said, run with, you know, continue doing sort of those almost quite classic.
But it's so awesome to, when those, for an Empire, when you establish a lot of the framing for what we want to achieve, it's kind of like you want to work faster than what's possible because you have all these ideas that needs to get out of and get done. The tricky thing we have with that is, of course, that in the writing process, there's mostly 2 of us.
Yeah.
So everything has to be done very iterative and trying, etc. But usually everything has to come from that idea. We never sit down and say, let's write a song.
Yeah.
We rather talk about how do we want it to feel.
Yeah.
How do we want it to look in just a thing that's stuck in our head?
Yeah.
And then we just play around with it. So sometimes it goes extremely fast and sometimes it doesn't. But it's just something driven in purely by just a vision.
And I must think it must help being on a record label like Palladini, which has got people who work that exact sort of way. You know, you know, the idea of actually that idea, the music is the most important part of it.
Yeah, it really helps, and they are very supportive and just throws like opportunities at us all the time.
Yeah.
Especially Robin does, Robin stamps.
Yeah.
Which are like, do you want to do this? Do you want to do this? Do you want to do this? Sometimes you just have to stop. What do we really want to do? You can't just say yes, even if we would like to.
I'm glad you said yes to being here. So I'm really, really, really excited. And I think, you know, a couple more things I really want to know is, and there's a number of people like myself who discovered this album. You know, I'll be honest, wasn't particularly aware of it beforehand, and the album tops up. You know, are you finding there is a, you know, take to use the word buzz? Is there, you know, does there feel to be a buzz about the Empire, where people like myself are getting really quite excited about it?
Yeah, definitely. I would say because we've been doing this for almost 20 years.
Yeah.
The first EP was released in 2006 or 7.
Yeah.
And it's a very, very, you know, like you just keep doing it, and if you keep doing it for long enough, then the stuff will happen. We can't quit, basically. And now we're at the point where we really see like the effect of it. And I would say that Logic is a big part of it, because it kind of opened us up to a lot of people that, you know, like wouldn't know necessarily who we were before.
Yeah, we generally went into this. I mean, we want to write music, and it's amazing if people enjoy it. We do it a lot for our passion of doing it. So, both strapped up my label, starting releasing stuff. There's a lot of, you need to be good at promoting. We're not. So now jumping onto Pelagic, we can remove ourselves from that part and rather focus on the creative parts. But it's also that they become a bit of a blowtorch in a way, that like it throws you these curveballs and those things, like just the tour. This year we hadn't talked about doing a longer tour, and suddenly the opportunity is there, and you say, of course we're gonna say so that's a possibility that we never considered was a way for us actually to reach new things like this.
Well, I'm really glad that you have. As I said, by the present moment, I'm very much a fanboy, looking forward to just seeing how those tracks transfer and things. So, you know, final question for me, which connects into the Palladini thing, is, you know, there's a Palladini Festival, which I know you played, you know, earlier on in the year and stuff, but if you were allowed to do a Swarm of the Sun festival, they said to you, right, you can create it next year, and Swarm of the Sun can have a day, and you can create that. Who would you have play? Who else would you have play with it?
Oh, there's so many good ones. But we really love a few Swedish, like Anna von Paus,
Sara Parkman, very folky, emotional. There is a dip in the darker parts that we love. Those are definitely one.
Those are Absolutely, we do. It may be like Nick Cave.
I just think Nick Cave. Yeah, I'm sure you can stick on, have an opening, stick them on at midday.
But it's hard not to say the bands, of course, that are influences.
Yeah.
I mean, Swans, obviously, I would definitely get, but it's a different league. But if we look at things, we're becoming a very Scandinavian now, but there are those. We like Sacral. What's the word? I would say like folky, Scandinavian folklore, or that kind of storytelling. And there are bands like Maria von Ausos, Sabah Parkman, Maria Vehon, a lot of those things I would really love to have.
Well, there is a, I'm Norwegian, and there's a darkness to our Scandinavian folk, which, it isn't the understanding some people have a folk being the actually there's a real darkness, there's a real, because it's tales about how hard it was living in sort of, pre-20th century, Scandinavia, it is, and that's something I find quite interesting when you talk about Nordic folk, it's or even Scandinavian folk. It's slightly different to the British understanding of folk. It's slightly different to almost even the European understanding of folk.
And for us, we never set out to say let's sound like this. We just realized that when we listen to our own music, that we have connections here and there that we have picked up, and not sure where it comes from. It's just stuff we enjoy. Maybe it's culture, maybe it's just influences of what we're building towards, but
Well, this has been fantastic. Thank you. And as I said, I'm really excited about earlier on, and an Empire is just brilliant. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Really looking forward to the show, and we are Damnation. We're up here at Damnation. Check us out. Do all the subscribing stuff, and the interviews will be up as well as a review. And catch you later. Thank you.